Technology is the fundamental way for hydrokinetic devices to produce electricity. Hydrokinetic devices require a minimum current and water depth. The minimum current required to operate a hydrokinetic device is typically 2 to 4 knots. Optimum currents are in the 5 to 7 knot range. Hydrokinetic devices are ideally installed in locations with relatively steady flow throughout the year, locations not prone to serious flood events, turbulence, or extended periods of low water level. Examples of the technologies include tidal barrages, undersea tidal turbines, tidal mills, etc. But the conversion of hydrokinetic energy requires a strict process.
Basically, hydrokinetic energy is produced by harnessing the kinetic energy of a body of water. Since water is 832 times denser than air, our waters, our tides, our waves, ocean currents, and free-flowing rivers represent an untapped and clean energy source. One of the processes is an oscillating water column. Waves enter and exit a partially submerged collector from below, causing the water column inside the collector to rise and fall. The changing water level acts like a piston as it drives air that is trapped in the device above the water into a turbine, producing electricity with a coupled generator. Another process is through the point absorber. This uses wave energy from all locations and focuses at a single point in order to pressurize seawater. By doing this, it turns the turbine. There are many modes of this process, but one of them is the hose pump absorber, where it has a surface floating buoy that is on the seafloor. While the waves cause the buoy to enlarge and constrict, it creates the required action to produce electricity. Thirdly is the attenuator, where these devices rotate another attenuator by rotational motion, where it is used to pressurize a hydraulic piston that then drives the fluid through a motor, which then turns the coupled generator. Then that produces electricity. Finally is the overtopping device, where this device causes a floating reservoir while the waves break over the walls of the device. This reservoir creates a head of water, which then creates a pressure that causes the hydro turbine to move. And while the hydro turbine moves, it causes electricity. But no matter what energy source anyone wants to use, there is obviously a cost.
Because no commercial hydrokinetic power projects are currently licensed and operating in the United States, it is difficult to estimate the cost of hydrokinetic power production. According to the Electric Power Research Institute, the approximate cost of hydrokinetic energy will be about 10 cents per kilowatt hour once the plant goes to commercial use. Currently, all hydrokinetics is a long-term investment opportunity with either huge benefits or huge losses. In the meantime, the early stage of the technology and high regulatory costs associated with lengthy permitting requirements and licensing uncertainties are likely to continue, presenting major economic hurdles to commercialization of the technology. But luckily, despite all the uncertain costs, the uses of hydrokinetic energy is starting to expand.
Currently, a lot of hydrokinetic generation technologies are moving from demonstrational purposes to commercial uses, for which they will need to apply for federal operating license in the near future. Areas for good wave energy potential would be the West Coast, Hawaii, and Alaska. And for tidal energy would be the Puget Sound, San Francisco, and a variety of East Coast areas. And for rivers, it's obviously going to be in Mississippi, Missouri, and Yukon because they're the biggest rivers in the U.S. And as of 2011, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, or known as FERC, has issued 70 preliminary permits for hydrokinetic projects. On a global scale, over 25 countries have initiated hydrokinetic activities. But the thing is, most of them are in the early commercial stage, such as in Suwa in South Korea, where they already started a prototype for the hydrokinetic energy, and also in Gujarat, India, where they proposed a 50 megawatt tidal current project. Not only have scientists already found a current use, but they are also venturing the future uses too.
it has been shown statistically that hydrokinetic energy has improved a lot in the past couple of years. Actually, even the National Renewable Energy Laboratory has said that hydrokinetic energy could provide 80% of electricity by 2050. Yet there are still people who do not realize the full potential of this particular type of energy. According to the Energy Information Administration, this source of clean energy could very possibly produce as much as 23 gigawatts by 2025 and 100 gigawatts by the year 2050. And this just barely scratches the surface of its technically achievable potential. As shown in this chart, it shows this energy is already 10% of our usable energy, a pretty big portion, especially considering that unlike solar or wind, this power can be far more predictable and reliable. Mainly, the future creation of these projects will be located at places with high wave energy. And if the scientists were willing to project the future use of this type of energy, then there must be positive impacts of this particular type of hydrokinetic energy.
The positive impact of hydrokinetic energy is tremendous, where, for example, we would avoid using fossil fuels, for which they conduct greenhouse gases and other air pollutions, and these greenhouse gases are not a good thing for an environment. It has also been estimated that 13,000 megawatts of hydrokinetic capacity would be developed by 2025. That means, at full potential, it could generate around 400 terawatts per year, which is 10% of US demand in 2007. Assuming that hydrokinetic energy displaces the generation from the current mix of US fossil fuel power, this could avoid 250 million metric tons of carbon dioxide, or 4% of total US carbon dioxide emissions in 2007. And even though this is a small percentage, we have to take into account that we are talking about the US, which is one of the biggest fossil fuel users in the world. But like every types of energy source, this also has some flaws to it.
Even though large scale projects have not been surveyed yet, a range of potential impacts can be assumed. For example, wave energy installations can require large expanses of ocean space, which could compete with other uses such as fishing and shipping and cause damage to marine life and habitats, similar to hydropower due to the dams. Some tidal energy technologies are located at ecologically sensitive estuary systems, which could cause changes in hydrology and salinity that negatively impact animal and plant life. Despite these negative impacts, there are still some good reasons why they are better than other conventional energy sources.
This resource is obviously better than the other types of resources for many reasons. 1. Unlike fossil fuels, it does not release any greenhouse gases such as CO2 emissions. Number 2. Unlike hydropower, this doesn't destroy as much marine habitats because this does not require the use of huge dams. And thirdly, unlike wind and solar, this type of energy will be predictable as long as the moon exists because the only way the tides are created is by the moon. So basically, to sum it all up, this resource is the best because it is clean, predictable, and also safe for both the environment and for us.
And that's all, folks.